This is a recap of my Sligo 2025 chess tournament games, and starting at round one here, playing as black against Shay, and we start with e4, and I played e6 here, going for the French defense. This is not my normal response to e4. My normal response is c5 Tamanov. Anyway, so we continue here with d3 from white, and I play d5 and knight d2 from white here, knight c6, knight on g2, f3, knight f6, and g3. So now it's pretty obvious at this point that white is going to fianchetto the bishop on bishop g2, and at this position here I played a somewhat troublesome move, which was a bishop c5. Now, why do I say this move is troublesome? Well, on the surface it kind of looks like a sensible move at our level, where you're developing a minor piece and you're preparing to castle. Right, but if you take a closer look here, what this does is it invites a move like e5 from white, where our knight has to retreat. Then it invites another move, d4, where we're losing tempo, we have to retreat with the bishop again, and white gains a lot of space here in the center, and already our position is a little bit too cramped quite early in the game. And okay, let's go back before I play bishop c5. A very strong case here can be made for e takes, then we'll push e5. And because bishop g2 is quite a telegraph move, you can see it from a mile away, this kind of stunts the influence of that light squared bishop if we exchange here and push to e5, which is probably what I should have played, hindsight. So after bishop c5, obviously, then white is going to play bishop g2, and at this point then I played d takes, and we both castled. So at this point I played queen e7, which kind of misses the whole point of the position here, because e5 is still a move or a solution that I needed to make. Because let's just go back again to e5, and the thing is, e5 kind of clamps down on the d4 square and also opens up a line here for my light squared bishop for bishop e6 and bishop g5. So after queen e7, white plays c3, and they in turn challenge d4, and there's also the looming threat of b4 now. And seeing this at this point, then I played a5 to counter that, and white played a4. And it's worth noting, if I go back to queen e7, the obvious plan there for me was to place a rook on the d file. So after a4 there, I eventually get my rook on the d file, and white has given me every opportunity here to solve that e5 problem, which I didn't take. I just wasn't firing on all cylinders here. And after rook d8, then there was queen e2, and I immediately saw a plan of perhaps placing my bishop on a2 here. So I played, on a6. So I played b6, and white plays b3, and I immediately play bishop b6 here. So with white's queen under attack here, they have the option to play queen e1 or block the square here with the pawn on c3 or the knight on d2. And the obvious smart move here is knight c4, because c4 doesn't work, because it vacates, well, it creates these dark square holes here in white's position. And also with the option of rerouting my knight to e5 by way of d7, it kind of puts black in a better move. But anyway, white plays the best move. Well, yeah, it's the best move anyway in the situation, and the block with c4. And now I considered b5 for a while here, which seemed like a good plan. Kind of keep this knight pinned here if they take and I take. But then for some reason I got impatient and I played a very impatient move with knight g4, where I was asking questions about f2. But immediately when I played it, I saw that, look, this is not a good plan. And white rightly punishes me for this, and they play e5. Now my knight has no good retreat square. On h6, they probably take with the bishop, and this breaks my pawn structure on the king side. And f6, I can't put my knight there because I just lose it to the pawn. So at that point, like out of desperation, just trying to salvage the situation, then I played rook d5, trying to attack this pawn. And white responds with bishop e4, providing further protection here. I respond here with rook on a to d8, and the inevitable h3 follows from white here, and where my knight is basically trapped. And one may look at it and say, hang on, you can move your knight to h6. And that doesn't work, because after this, white simply plays bishop g5. So at this point, the best move was just to lose my minor piece here for a pawn and take on f2. And white takes rook f2. And I simply should have taken here with bishop takes f2, but for some reason I thought, let me add more pieces here on the open d file, and I completely missed that white could simply block with e3. But in this position here, white plays king h2. So I play bishop takes rook, white plays queen takes bishop. And it's worth noting now, white may be down a rook, but there are 4 very active pieces. Minor pieces, but I have a knight here in the middle of the board that's kind of restricted. It doesn't really have any active squares to jump into, or it's not affecting the game in a way that I would like. Apart from maybe first retreating to say e7. So I decided to play bishop takes c4 to create a double pawn structure here, which could be a target down the line for black. And after this, after white plays b takes c4, I played rook d3, but this is kind of easy to defend for white, and they simply played rook c1. So now I decided to kind of get some activity for my knight with knight e7, and also create a threat here on a4. And then white plays bishop g5, and at this point I somehow panicked because of this pin. I don't know why. I didn't think this position through, because I thought my knight couldn't move, so my rook is kind of restricted. So I played king f8, which is a terrible move. I didn't need to solve this problem. I didn't need to deal with this. I simply should have just played h6, which chases the bishop away. And instead of retreating, obviously white can play takes on e7 and queen e7, and then queen takes e7, and then there's a threat of a3 here with that a4 pawn in trouble, and the position is equal. But I just made a massive mess of the position and played king f8, which is just so unnecessary. So white solidifies their position here, and they play knight d4, which isolates my rook on d3 here. And to be honest with you here, I was running out of ideas, and I just played a hasty move trying to claw back some material, and I played queen takes a4. Kind of a greedy move. I'm sure there was better moves here, but it was kind of a lost position. And but I missed a tactic here where white plays knight takes e6, which is basically a free pawn, and I can't take back because that f7 pawn is pinned. So I played king e8, and I'm losing my rook here, and I take back with the rook. They take my knight, or with bishop takes e7. I take back with the king, and then they play bishop g5, which kind of plugs this weak pawn, but at the same time is threatening mate here, which is actually a great move from white. And I think one of the more sensible moves I had here was rook f8, and they played queen f3, which kind of blunts the c6 move here, while at the same time leaving the option for rook f1. So this was kind of a great play from white. I still play c6 regardless, so that if they take, I was going to take on c7, or on c4, sorry. And then they played bishop g5. And the f7 problem still exists, meaning I had to move my queen anywhere. And I played queen c8. And white eventually plays the intended rook f1 to pile more pressure on this f7 pawn. And then I played f5, white takes en passant. I took with the rook here to threaten the queen, and they played queen e1 check and king f8. And at this point, probably rook f6 still wins. Look, white is winning at this point. White plays rook e1, and I played queen d8, hoping to push the bishop away. And I played bishop c4, and ultimately then I kind of blundered my way into a checkmate with g6, and I played queen h6, and the game was over. But I think the takeaway here was knight g4, that unnecessary impatient move I made earlier on at move 13, and the constant missing of the e5 move here, which I had plenty of times to make to kind of clamp down the position or kind of challenge the center. And also then king f8 in an equal position here, which was very unnecessary, where I simply had to play h6, and it would have been an equal game, I believe, from there. But, well, all credit to white, who played a good game and managed to punish all my mistakes, and I lost my first round here